how are ya? We're back. We as in the royal we. As in just me, Pat. Welcome back to Ground Zero Salem. Spinning a little RDP right now, Anarchophobia, 1991, RC Records. Killer crossover-ish thrash band from Brazil. Started out as a hardcore band. Not sure where this is in the discography. I think it's their third LP. We'll go with that. Hated this as a kid for whatever reason. Upon a revisit after purchasing this cassette down at Residency Records here in Salem, I'm wondering what the hell I was thinking. I want to go back in time and kick my little mulleted ass. Brazil, the previous record, I still prefer. Way thrashier and faster, but this still has plenty of rip on it. I think it's just like that first riff you just heard. It's kind of riffy and bluesy. I thought it was gross or something. I don't know. Great band. Actually, now that I think of it, my old band got to open for them in New Bedford, Mass, I think. It was a recovery center, community center, like a.k.a. place, which was a really weird vibe. We played with RDP and Toxic Narcotic. There were like 30 people there. It was kind of a bummer. Bright halogen lights, just not the right atmosphere, the right vibe at all. So, whatever. I got some tapes to talk about. Tapes and a couple of 7-inches. Gonna try to coast through this. Tried starting this a couple times and wasn't feeling it. We'll see if I'll make it through this time. I'm determined on not restarting this again. So, a bunch of cassettes that have been kind of piling up for the past half a year, 7-8 months. I wanted to do a mostly cassette-centric update, and I haven't been buying a lot of tapes, it seems like, maybe, weirdly enough. So I have a stack here, maybe a dozen or so, give or take. 3 7-inches, tack on the end. Kind of organized by geographic location. So we'll keep it in South America first, head back to Brazil in a minute. First up, I got this Ripper EP. Just came out this year on Unspeakable Acts, Sensory Stagnation. What a great record. Up there for an album of the year for me. It's an EP, but record of the year for me. Definitely my favorite thrash metal record this year. Not completely whiplash-inducing this time around from these dudes from Chile. More kind of evened out. There's some slower parts that are really crushing. And the bassist, who has always been kind of the star of the show with this band, is really taking that bad boy for a walk on this one. Lots of kind of proggy bass stuff going on. A lot of shades of Steve DiGiorgio. Death Human a little bit going on there. Maybe the third Sadist record. Still plenty of, like, really teeth-gnashing kind of Teutonic stuff going on. All in all, just a great thrash metal release. No vinyl release yet, and I'm not usually... These days, I'm not so anal retentive about owning certain things on vinyl, but this I'd love to see on 12-inch. I'd definitely pick that up. Guess the bassist is left, according to a commenter which one I can't remember, sorry. But somebody piped in and said that bassist is no longer with them and has started a new band called Suppression that already has a 7-inch out on Unspeakable Acts as well. Haven't really listened to it, but I'm sure it'll be great if that guy's involved. Next up, couple of reissues on Grey Haze of old Cogumelo releases from late 80s and early 90s, respectively. First up, The Mist, Phantasmagoria. Great, dark, somewhat complex thrash, but not overly technical or anything like that. I'm going to Voivod or Coroner territory necessarily, but, you know, moody, dark, got enough slow, heavy pummeling stuff, but still thrashes pretty hard, kind of raspy vocals. Came out in 89, and I want to say, like, these guys had probably been listening to Beneath the Remains, but that's the same year that this came out, so maybe the influence went the other way around. I don't know. A couple of quieter, somber moments that are really nice. But yeah, glad I picked this up. You know, I know the basics of a lot of the Brazilian stuff, your sex trashes and sarcophagos and all that kind of stuff, Mystifier, so kind of nice going a little further ahead in the future into the 90s and checking out some other Brazilian bands I wasn't familiar with. Expulser's next, The Unholy One, also on Grey Haze. Cool purple shell there. Nice J card, thick card stock. Oop. This is really cool. This is an interesting mix of styles. It's almost got sort of a cleaner thrash, you know, almost like a Bay Area kind of thing, but meshing and bashing head to head with almost like a bestial, explosive sort of property to it. There's almost like some blasphemy, Ross Bay cult kind of blasting, but also kind of tighter circle pit inducing kind of riffs going on. Dig it a lot. Kind of growly vocals. A little bit of like American death metal thrown in there too. Cool hybrid of approaches there. Tristengrav is next. We're going to go to Greece here. This is catchy, just raw enough black metal with some melodic stuff going on. Little hints of synths, a couple places on the EP here. This was released by H.R.A. earlier this year. It's got that kind of clean, echoey guitar tone that a lot of people say is surfy sounding, that I don't really hear. You could say there's some like kind of guitar similarities. Not necessarily songwriting, but guitar similarities with Funeral Presence and Negative Plane. It's got that kind of echoey thing going on. It really works for the melodic parts. And the third song on here is a little bit slower, and parts of it with that guitar tone almost kind of remind me of Christian Death a little bit. There's a little bit of like a harder side of death rock. Not going to say the title because I can't pronounce it, so I'm just going to put a caption. But definitely a great release. Greek band, have a demo, and that's all they've got out right now. According to Metal Archives, they're on hold, quote unquote, so hopefully we get to hear more. My favorite Greek band right now, though, is Ectoplasma. This is Spitting Coffins. This was released on a Eastern Asian label, Brutal Infection Records. Just a clear shell. I like this the most. You can see there's two members in this lineup. I think they've fleshed it out more since then. And it's just like a fun late 80s style death metal project. You can hear your share of Scream Bloody Gore on it. Very early Autopsy, Asphyx, that sort of thing. Just gore-soaked, but not trying to be too blown out and brutal and, you know, cavemanish. It's just good, solid, respecting the old days kind of death metal stuff. And it's doesn't overstay its welcome. 9 songs in about a half an hour. Super immediate, which I really like. Then I have their EP from 2018 here, Cryogenically Revived, which is on Morbid Chapel Records. And this, they've kind of fleshed out their sound a little bit more. There's a little bit more slow going on, a little bit more like kind of doomy heavy stuff, but not too much. Longer songs, but same like kind of gritty, horror-inspired, traditional death metal. They just do it really well. Not reinventing the wheel by any means, but they don't really need to, in my book. Looking forward to getting Wide-Eyed Trance, the new one, in the mail within the next couple days. A couple of Scandinavian releases here. Epitaph, Disorientation. This is also on Brutal Infection. A little buyer beware for you. I don't know what's up with the dubbing process from these guys, but one of the songs is cut off. That's kind of a big detractor for me, but at any rate, it's classic Swedish DM. I talked about these guys recently and one of their records in an update not too long ago. This is the beginnings, you know, and it's nothing you wouldn't expect out of classic Swedish DM. You know, trem picking, buzzsaw guitars, polka beats, everything that you would be into if you were into Swedish DM, and I am. Another one that I talked about recently as part of a compilation of stuff. This is the reissue of the Cranial Torment demo by Funebra. And this came out on Spawn of Flesh, I believe. Actually wrote down the labeled names because I always forget to mention the label. Came out this year. Nice faithful reproduction. Raw as all get out, finished DM from '89. Definitely sounds like it was recorded in a recycling bin at the bottom of the ocean, but in a good way. And like I mentioned previously, the really good, catchy, brutal riffing kind of pokes through. The songwriting quality pokes right through the poor recording, like a knife through a sponge. Then we got Bewitcher, self-titled. Came out in 2018 on Rapid Fire Records. That fun kind of like little foil in the clear shell there, which is nice. This is black thrash. It's more leaning towards that kind of black rock and roll that I like so much. Midnight Chapel, Baphomet's Blood, all that fun kind of satanic speed metal shit. Bewitcher's a little bit more involved, I'd say. Portland, Oregon is where they're from. It's a little bit more involved. There's a little bit more early Bathory, I feel like. It's a little nastier and more black. There's a little bit more of a complicated air to their structures and stuff. They kind of have a little bit longer songs, I'd feel, than those bands. They definitely offer something a little bit different. You know, you're not getting your usual Venom clone, which is nice. And then we'll go to something not metal here. This is Your Mistake from Iowa. One-man project. This dude, Gray, it's a very active underground music guy, put it together. Plays everything on it as far as I know. It's just an intro and 3 songs. In My Sights, Poser Suicide, and Trapped. You look at the cover, if you didn't know what the music sounded like, you might think it's a little bit more metallic and tough guy-ish. Got an X-Fist holding a gun, graffiti font there. Maybe you might think it sounds like 25 to Life or something looking at the cover, but it's more traditional hardcore in the American way. Of course, Negative Approach comes to mind. A few more recent bands, 86 Mentality, and stuff like that. Wasted Time. Really good, real gruff, kind of oi-influenced hardcore. Deep vocals, rough recording that doesn't take anything from the songs, actually kind of adds to them, you know, slightly blown out kind of quality to it. Also, Your Mistake. I wonder at this point if every single song from Victim in Pain by AF has a corresponding band that has taken it. There's so many bands that name themselves after AF songs. I feel like every song on Victim in Pain is covered at this point. Anyway, next up, H.R.A. Heavy Roach Activity. This is a dude from Texas named Francisco, plays in this band, guitar, I think. Friends with him on Facebook. He's also in Thy Feeble Savior and a new death metal band called Cemeterian that are excellent. This is his kind of more grindy hardcore project. Very noisy, also pretty fucking blown out. Very pissed. He threw in a patch. Pretty cool. It's like the Septic Death Skull, but in the shape of Texas. Yeah, I've been wanting to hear these guys for a while, seeing him on social media. They have a couple of previous LPs that I need to check out, but we're talking, you know, a 7-inch and there's 12 songs on it, so it's quick to the point, incredibly pissed, shrieking vocals for the most part. There's some deeper ones here and there. I really like it. It's kind of in the red as far as energy and anger goes the whole way through, which is something I look for. This is a cool one. This is Invulnerable Terrorists. This is a very, very limited pressing on I Owe You Nothing Records, the very first release from that label out of somewhere in Quebec. And this was a band that was around in the late 80s. They were around in 88. And this is just a 3-song demo, probably about the same length as the Your Mistake demo, like 3 songs in 5 minutes or so. It's a lathe cut, which is always cool. I think this is the first lathe cut I've ever owned. It's one-sided, just black vinyl, but, you know, cool center labels, kind of little hardcore X there. Nothing on the other side at all. Yeah, it's a really cool recording. It's very blast-laden 80s hardcore. You could look towards very early DRI, like the Dirty Rotten EP, or kind of Heresy at their most nasty. And there wasn't a lot of bands playing like this back then. This is a little bit later in the game, past the DRI, and like Negative Effects kind of did that tempo too, Siege, around the same era as Heresy. I'm not sure if they were aware of them or not, but to hear something this ripping, and this little snapshot in time, and apparently this band just recorded this. They only played like parties and backyards and stuff like that wherever they were from in Canada, so it's really cool to hear something just kind of unearthed like that. This is already sold out. I forget where I heard about this, but I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna snag that. It sounds interesting. All right, and finally we got Inoculation. Kind of ordered this along with some other Maggot Stomp stuff. This is Anatomize. Again, Maggot Stomp just keeps knocking it out of the park. My copy is just on black. I think there's a couple other colors available, like neon green or something. 2 songs. You know, not a lot going on as far as content on that. Just 2 songs, longerish, solid death metal length songs. I think 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 on one of them. Reminds me of good, riffy, solid, technically adept, but not wanky, like Florida death metal kind of stuff. Not overproduced. Certainly would have found its home easily on like the early Relapse single series or Seraphic Decay. They're definitely going for that sort of thing. Yeah, it's not really going into the swampy or mortician worshipping kind of territory that a lot of other Maggot Stomp bands go into. It's a little bit more, at least in terms of songwriting, a little bit more like cerebral than that, but it's also like very raw and very feral and everything in terms of quality that you'd expect from Maggot Stomp at this point. Cool to hear that they don't just do the fuzzed out bass swampy stuff. There's other kinds of death metal that are maybe only 1 degree of separation away. Like these guys are Vomit Forth are a little bit different than other Maggot Stomp kind of bands, but continually putting out great output. That label's fucking awesome, and glad to support them. That's it for now. I hope every single one of you, each and every one of you out there, has a wonderful weekend. I'll be getting back to you soon. Plenty of free time to do this a lot more when I'm feeling chatty. Take care. Ground Zero out.